Welcome to BSW's Tech Dive. Tech Dive.
Submerge the ship.
The show goes technically deep into products you care about. The new, the old, the newish. So put on your gear, close up the hatch, and prepare to
Dive. Submerge the ship.
And now, here's John.
Hi, I am John Lynch, Director of Business Development here at BSWUSA.com, broadcast supply worldwide. And today's Tech Dive topic is the history of Shure microphones. And specifically, we're going to talk about the lineage that led to an iconic microphone that's been around for a long time and has become extremely popular, especially in the podcasting world over, say, about the last 18 months or so. And its development has led to the development of this very microphone here, the MV7. That's not our topic. Our topic is the iconic SM7B. And we've got no better source than you can go with, and that is the historian for the folks at Shure Brothers Incorporated. And there he is. It's Michael Pedersen. And Michael and I, we're going to be talking about the MV7 later on. But right now, let's talk about where it began with. And that, of course, was the SM7, which has a lot of history before it came out several decades ago. Michael, give us a little bit of the background of how we got to where we are now with the SM7.
Well, John, you got to go back to 1939.
39?
Shure, yeah, when Shure brought out the Unidyne 1 Model 55. Many people refer to that as the Elvis microphone.
You know, when you say that, people know exactly what you're talking about. They may not know the microphone, but they know that look.
Worldwide, everybody says, oh, yeah, that's what a microphone looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the world's first single-element cardioid dynamic microphone. It was a huge breakthrough at the time and became immediately popular. So for 12 years, we sold the larger one called the Unidyne 1. And in 1951, we brought out the Unidyne 2, which is smaller only because television was getting popular. And television, people were saying, I like the Unidyne 1, but it's too large.
Too big. It takes up too much of the screen.
So make a smaller one, and that's when we brought out the Unidyne 2, Model 55S. S simply means small. And interestingly enough, here it is 2021, and we still make several versions of that Unidyne 2 microphone that first came out in 1951.
Of course, if we had the big screens then that we do now, maybe they wouldn't have minded the larger.
Could be. Yeah, good point. So in 1959, we brought out the Unidyne 3. Now, the Unidyne 3 was interesting because it was cylindrical. It kind of looked like a long cigar, if you will, and you spoke into the end of it, not into the side of it. So it's called an end-fire microphone.
Mm-hmm. So speaking into this end rather than over here on the side.
That's correct, mm-hmm. Exactly. And that led to the famous Shure SM57, SM58, and many people don't know, but inside a SM7 is a variation of the Unidyne 3 element.
Wow.
And so the SM7 came out, introduced in end of 1972, sold first in 1973.
Then we go from the Unidyne into something that a lot of us remember very fondly, at least in the broadcast world, a microphone that back in the day we'd refer to as the big contact capsule. Are there contact capsules around anymore? I don't know, but this was, of course, the SM5.
Right. SM5 came out, is also a Unidyne 3, a variation on Unidyne 3. It came out in 1964, but it was aimed at being an overhead boom microphone, not an on-air radio microphone.
So being just out of camera range rather than on camera range, so to speak.
Exactly. And it really, for the first 6 years, pretty much languished. In the early 70s, there were some broadcasters, radio broadcasters, who started using it for on-air microphones. Shure wasn't pushing it for that. The broadcasters found it all by themselves.
They have a tendency to do that.
Yep. We have a lot of products that we said, oh, it's to do A, and the end users say, no, it does B, and then we say, oh, yeah, we meant B.
Yeah. And then it became the SM5B, so whatever. So, yeah.
Right, exactly. So the SM5 was introduced in 64, discontinued in 1988. It was indeed very, very popular for an on-air radio microphone. But the problem was there just weren't that many radio stations, and it never sold very well. People think that we sold hundreds of thousands of these. The reality is we sold hundreds of them every year. It was just never a big, because once you had them, you didn't need another ones. You just bought your new windscreens and you were done.
So maybe there wasn't a wide number of purchases, but everybody who got one loved it. In the broadcast world particularly.
Very loyal. But broadcasters in general take care of their stuff. They don't break it. so they weren't replacing them.
Right, exactly. Then, of course, we still get calls for that microphone today. And so it's had such a, and that one started back in what was that?
1964.
64, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, what you folks have done in microphones, I mean, even, that far back, and they're still popular today, but then you came up with, how do we get from the 5 to the SM7?
Well, the 5 was expensive to manufacture. A lot of people considered it too large. So, and we saw it really wasn't working well as a boom microphone. So around 1969, we decided to come up with a microphone that we were going to aim at the voiceover market. And voiceover being, studio recordings, on air and so forth. And that was became the SM7. So we took the yoke from the SM5 and make that smaller. We used the Unidyne 3 element inside. We used the design for our A55M rubber donut as a shock mount, and we took things we already had and put them all together to make up the SM7. What's unique about the SM7, I think, is the way it looks. It's such a cool looking microphone, and we did get a design patent for that around 1974. But interestingly enough, that's a product now that's over 50 years old, but yet still looks like it could have been designed yesterday. It really has kind of an iconic, never aging look to it.
Well, and what's happened over the last couple of years, it's selling like it's brand new too.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. From 1973 to around 2008, it was a good, an average selling microphone. Wasn't bad enough to get rid of, wasn't good enough to really promote, but it was okay to keep around. And around 2008, podcasters got a hold of this, and they started telling other people via the internet, social media, and so forth, and the sales started to rise. And it started to rise and rise and rise. And then around 2015 or 2016, these dates are approximate because we don't really even know, gamers got a hold of this. And whoever thought gamers would pay $500 for a microphone, but indeed they would. Mm-hmm. So interestingly enough, 2020 is going to be, as we close it out now, look at the figures, the best year ever for SM7 sales, even though that product now will turn 50 years old in 2023. Truly amazing.
That is. And, it's like, cars last for so long and then they change and the model goes away and whatever. And here is something that's almost 50 years old and is more popular today than ever. So, hey, you were onto something then. Now, one thing you did change. Now you've got two different ways of doing the windscreens.
Yeah, actually we came out with the SM7 and stayed the SM7 from 1973 to 1999. And then in 1999, we improved the humbucking coil. The humbucking coil helped reduce hum when you place the microphone close to a video monitor. And a lot of time, back then, radio stations were adding video monitors for people to read the copy off of. So we had to change that. But 2001, we decided to add a second windscreen. A larger windscreen to help pop protection, but primarily to make it look like the SM5. And if you look at the larger windscreen that comes with the SM7, it looks kind of like one end of an SM5, except smaller. Yep. And we just thought, maybe if we made it look like the SM5, that some of these SM5 people would buy it. Sure enough, it worked.
It worked. Hey, and we sell an awful lot of those bigger windscreens nowadays. Indeed. So here at BSWUSA.com. Also, but now you've generated a new model, which is the one I'm using here and the one you're using over there, available in black or in silver, but it's the MV7, but it's part of the same line. Am I right?
Well, actually, MV stands for Motive. Motive line is microphones that we have, which out of the box are designed to hook up to your computer, primarily doing USB. Right. The SM7, of course, is not. You have to go through some type of interface as well. So the MV7, not everybody could afford $499 for the microphone. Not everybody wanted to deal with an interface to go between the SM7 and their computer. So we said, well, let's make something, about half the price if we can, and make it so that it comes out of the box ready to go into your computer. And that's what the MV7 does. Now, the insides of a Unidyne, of a SM7 is not exactly a Unidyne 3. It's a close cousin to the Unidyne 3, but it's not exactly the same. But it is a dynamic element like the SM7.
Right.
It has a USB output. It has headphone output as well. And interestingly enough, it also has a XLR analog balanced mic level out as well. So you literally can come out of that microphone USB and at the same time come out analog, and if you want to record it or use it for some other application. It's a very clever microphone, and people are loving it.
I want you to repeat that. You can use it both ways simultaneously. I happen to be using it just as the XLR output here, but I could also have it connected to a USB version as well simultaneously.
That's right, exactly. So I'll give you an example of how I did that. Not too long ago, I did a similar recording like we're doing now with Shure UK, our English area. But what we wanted to do was have an online conversation, but at the same time make a digital recording of my microphone. So that microphone was doing double duty. I was communicating with my colleague at Shure UK live like we are now, but at the same time I had the analog output going into a small digital recorder, and then I sent that digital file to him, and then they married them together. NPR does that all the time, where they take two people different locations and then marry the digital files together. So yeah, it's a cool thing with the MV7.
Fascinating, and goes from the 30s with the Unidyne 1 all the way up to now the SM7 and the MV7, and just a great history there from Shure.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. It's a very fascinating company. I've been there for now almost 45 years, and every day it's just more interesting for me to go to work than the day before.
And one thing we're going to do is we're bringing you back for another program, because we've only talked just a small portion of Shure on this show, but we thank you for joining us. Michael Pedersen, he is the historian for Shure, and we've been talking about Unidyne on through SM5, SM7, and MV7 here on Tech Dive. I'm John Lynch. Thanks for joining us.
Baby, turn out the